जी, सभी का आज की काम की बात पे बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। आज हम डिस्कशन करेंगे एक बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट टॉपिक पे जो रिसेंटली मतलब बाहर निकला है, जो है यूएन्स पैक्ट फॉर द फ्यूचर, डेंजर्स एंड पेरिल्स ऑफ ग्लोबल गवर्नेंस। भविष्य के लिए संयुक्त राष्ट्र समझौता, वैश्विक शासन के खतरे और संकट। तो ये टॉपिक जो है आज का, उसके ऊपर बात करने के लिए हमारे साथ जुड़े डॉक्टर नरसिम्हा रेड्डी जी, हैदराबाद से है, पॉलिसी एनालिस्ट है। बहुत सारे सोशल कॉजेज पे उन्होंने मतलब 40 के ऊपर सालों से काम किया है शायद। और हमारे साथ भी अवेकन इंडिया मूवमेंट के साथ भी बहुत क्लोजली जुड़े हैं, हमारे स्पेशल एडवाइजर भी है टू द नेशनल स्टीयरिंग कमेटी। एंड जो WHO पैंडेमिक ट्रीटी एंड इंटरनेशनल हेल्थ रेगुलेशंस अमेंडमेंट्स के ऊपर हम लोग ने जो भी काम किया है, लेटर्स ड्राफ्ट किए हैं, उसमें नरसिम्हा जी का बहुत ही बड़ा योगदान रहा है। तो यूनाइटेड नेशंस जो भी काम करती है, उनके अलग अलग आर्म्स थ्रू, सॉरी थोड़ा डिस्टरबेंस है तो मैं सबको म्यूट करने के लिए रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा, जो भी ठीक है। तो यूनाइटेड नेशंस के बहुत सारे अलग अलग आर्म्स है, बहुत सारे अलग अलग इनिशिएटिव्स उनके होते हैं। जैसे क्लाइमेट चेंज के ऊपर उनकी कमिटीज है, पैंडेमिक के लिए WHO है। तो वैसे अलग अलग इनिशिएटिव्स के ऊपर अलग अलग उनके ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, आर्म्स, इनिशिएटिव्स, टास्क ग्रुप्स एक्सेट्रा है। और ये सारी चीजों के ऊपर नरसिम्हा जी बहुत ही क्लोजली मॉनिटर करते हैं, और उनके क्या इम्प्लीकेशंस होते हैं वो पब्लिक को मतलब जहां तक पॉसिबल हो वो समझाने की कोशिश करते हैं। तो आज हम और एक जो यूएन का नया डॉक्यूमेंट निकला है, डेंजर्स एंड सॉरी यूएन पैक्ट फॉर द फ्यूचर, उसके क्या डेंजर्स है और उसके क्या इम्प्लीकेशंस है, वो आज हम नरसिम्हा जी से समझने की कोशिश करेंगे। थोड़ा ब्रीफली मैं अपने हिसाब से मैं पहले बता देता हूँ, फिर मैं नरसिम्हा जी को पास ऑन करता हूँ। तो ये एक डॉक्यूमेंट यूनाइटेड नेशंस की जनरल असेंबली में साइन हुआ था, पास हुआ था। इसकी भी क्लैरिटी लेंगे नरसिम्हा जी से। पिछले महीने ही ये हुआ है, और इसमें कई सारी बातों का उन्होंने एक साथ उल्लेख किया है। जैसे पैंडेमिक ट्रीटी की भी चर्चा की है, क्लाइमेट चेंज की भी चर्चा की है, सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स की भी चर्चा की है, उनका जो एजेंडा 2030 है। तो ये सारे इश्यूज को उन्होंने एक तरह से एक डॉक्यूमेंट में मिला के सारे कंट्रीज की एक तरह से सहमति ली है कि हम सभी लोग इन चीजों के ऊपर काम करेंगे। फाइनेंशियल आर्किटेक्चर, द न्यू फाइनेंशियल आर्किटेक्चर, तो ये भी इसमें इंक्लूडेड है। तो ब्रॉडली स्पीकिंग ये डॉक्यूमेंट काफी खतरनाक है और काफी बड़े इसके इम्प्लीकेशंस है। लेकिन क्लियरली ये किस तरह से लीगली बाइंडिंग है या नहीं है, किस तरह से एनफोर्स किया जाएगा, इसमें ऐसी भी बात है कि जैसे WHO पैंडेमिक ट्रीटी में WHO के जनरल डायरेक्टर जनरल को जो पावर्स मिलनी थी इमरजेंसी में, वैसी पावर्स यूएन के जनरल सेक्रेटरी को भी दी जाएगी। तो ये सारी बातों के ऊपर मैंने तो बहुत ही ऊपर ऊपर से बताया है, लेकिन थोड़ा और डिटेल में हम जानेंगे नरसिम्हा जी से। सो नरसिम्हा जी, आई हैंड इट ओवर टू यू। आप अगर हमें पूरे ये जो इश्यूज है, इफ यू कैन टेक अस थ्रू दैट maybe in the next 30-40 minutes or so, then after that we can have some question and answers from our viewers, and maybe spend another maybe 30 minutes or so on that. So over to you, Narasimha ji.
Thank you. Only other problem is technically the screen is not moving, the slides. So can you share, Rushil? I sent you the file.
I don't think I will be able to because I'm not with a laptop on me.
Okay.
Can I request maybe Deepika, if you are here, if you can help out with this?
I'm also not on the laptop, but let me log in. Give me a few minutes.
I do, yeah, thank you, because I don't even have my laptop with me.
And
Narasimha ji,
send me
आपने
the
कहाँ पे,
presentation.
yeah, कहाँ पे भेजा है नरसिम्हा जी आपने ये?
Proton mail पे, your Proton mail.
Oh, okay. ठीक है, आप मे बी अगर शुरू करना चाहे तो शुरू कीजिए, तब तक हम प्रेजेंटेशन को निकाल के ट्राई करते हैं इसको करने की।
Yeah, okay. So basically, as I think Shall I speak in Hindi or English or both?
आप हिंदी इंग्लिश मिक्स कीजिए, फोकसिंग मोर ऑन हिंदी. Wherever if it's not possible for you, आप इंग्लिश में बात करिए, but otherwise primarily we'll I think use Hindi if possible.
Yeah, thank you. I think Rushil has mentioned this already. So we are going to discuss this pact, which was, basically arrived at recently in September. एक एक महीना भी नहीं हुआ इसका अभी. तो इसका बारे में इसका इम्प्लीकेशंस, इससे क्या होता है, क्या हो सकता है, और इसमें क्यों ये क्यों आया है. आई थिंक ऑल दिस एस्पेक्ट्स विल डिस्कस. तो मेरा प्रेजेंटेशन में चार चीजें बताएंगे, बात करूंगा. एक तो ये जो कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ ग्लोबल गवर्नेंस, I think this UN Pact is trying to bring that concept of global governance into play, and there are various provisions within this pact. So हम पहले ये जो क्या हो रहा है ग्लोबल लेवल पे, कौन सी परिस्थिति में है हम लोग, वो बात करेंगे. फिर द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ ग्लोबल गवर्नेंस बात करेंगे, और फिर यूएन पैक्ट क्या है इसमें, और उसका एक एनालिसिस और मैं कंक्लूजन करूंगा. मैं एक्चुअली 20 मिनट खो गए हम लोग, तो थोड़ा जल्दी जल्दी करूंगा. बेसिकली देर इज ए कॉमेंट ऑन ग्लोबल गवर्नेंस, क्योंकि आज की जो परिस्थिति है, जैसा हम देख रहे हैं कि मिडिल ईस्ट में इजराइल वर्सेस 7 देशों का जो वार चल रहा है, फिर यूक्रेन एंड रशिया वार चल रहा है, बहुत कुछ मसला चल रहा है. देर आर लॉट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स ग्लोबली, एंड एट दिस टाइम people are thinking, whether there is anything can come out of it. So the comment is, this is a time of great hope and great hopelessness, a time when ideological fault lines have disappeared, while the global rifts of wealth and power are widened. तो पहले जो हम कोल्ड वॉर के टाइम पे देखे थे, कम्युनिज्म वर्सेस कैपिटलिज्म, तो ये जो आइडियोलॉजिकल पहले था, आज तो वो नहीं है. बट आज हम देख रहे हैं कि वेल्थ और पावर बहुत ज्यादा दिख रहा है, और ये जो अभी जो पॉलिटिक्स चल रहा है ग्लोबल लेवल पे, आई थिंक दैट दीज कम टू द फोर. सो इन दिस कॉन्टेक्स्ट द ग्लोबल गवर्नेंस के बारे में सोचना बहुत कठिन होगा. So the definition of governance, governance encompasses the activities of governments, but it also includes the many other channels through which commands flow in the form of goals framed, directives issued, and policies pursued. तो ओवरऑल हम गवर्नेंस का बात करें तो गवर्नेंस मीन्स बेसिकली अबाउट व्हाट ऑल द एक्टिविटीज a government does, and where other channels also, not just the governments, other channels, उसमें से जो commands आते हैं, sometimes it could be rule of law, it could be law itself, or it could be some notification. So all these commands, ये करो, वो करो, ये ना करो, ये ना करो. So all these are commands, which come through those governments. But sometimes they can be generated outside the government also. So ये पूरा गवर्नेंस का डेफिनेशन में आता. So are you able to share? Okay. Oh, you okay? Sharing. Sorry. Can you go back?
Narasimha ji, would you like Deepika to share the presentation now?
Yeah, I thought it is already coming. No.
No, this is in your screen, Narasimha ji.
अच्छा, ठीक है, please
Okay.
share.
Are you able to move it? Because अभी तक तो आपने move की है slides.
No, the buttons whichever I shared, और दबाया था वो उससे बदल गया. I don't know. So it is taking time. Better Deepika can share.
Okay, Deepika, can you try sharing? Narasimha ji, you can turn off your screen share.
Yeah, I did.
Deepika, this issue is there where this whole telescopic thing is coming. Okay.
Yeah, can you go to the fourth slide?
Also, Deepika, any chance it's possible to make this full screen? Okay, perfect. Okay.
So go to the fourth slide. Yeah, this is the one. So I was here talking about this governance and that issue. Next, please. Okay. So now this despair, at the international level about whether anything can happen, because no one is able to stop war, no one is able to stop the genocide which is happening. And when we look at the corona epidemic, how it stressed the people, and in fact it is killing people. So all these issues are are a question at an international level. So how do we tackle these problems? I think that's a big question. So Amazon deforestation. I just give you an example. 15 years back, Amazon, which is the biggest forest in the world. In fact, you can see it from you could see it from the satellite. So that was the biggest one, and Brazil started removing it, deforesting, saying we require money, so we require our economy to run. So at that time, US has proposed a global, forest governor. He said the argument was Amazon is required for the entire world, and if it is removed, it impacts the entire world. So let us, interfere in how Amazon forests are managed. So that's a kind of argument we will see in many other spaces as well. Whether it is in drugs trade or whether it is international crime, and now there almost 60% of the countries are indebted. They are all and deep debts, including China, US, and many small countries. तो वो जो करना चाहते हैं वो कर नहीं पा रहे हैं, क्योंकि ये जो इंटरनेशनल प्रेशर्स है, फैक्टर्स है, ये पूरा कैसा इसको मैनेज करें. और उसमें साथ ही साथ the nation state, now we think national government is supreme, but that is also getting diluted because we are seeing multinational corporations are involved, international organization, World Bank hai, World Trade Organization hai, now World Health Organization. So we have this multiplicity of organizations which are influencing the nation state and the government. So इसमें अकाउंटेबिलिटी कैसा होगा, इसका कंट्रोल कैसा होगा, ये मुद्दा अपना सामने है. नेक्स्ट प्लीज. सो इसमें दीपिका कैन यू चेंज? या सॉरी. So global governance concept में one is what this even the Pact is saying is we need to analyze the United Nations, which was established post Cold World War II, and many other organizations, international organizations came. So we have an experience of at least 70 plus years of these international organizations. So we need to analyze how they are doing, why they are not doing, or what are the inherent problems within that. So that is where the reforms of UN has been asked by people like us, but also by people, United States is asking because they feel these people are not listening to US, and EU is asking. So everyone feels these UN organizations need reforms. And of course, security, when we are seeing Afghanistan, Sudan, Turkey, Iraq, so many places now there is a lot of strife, even Madagascar, Moldavia in Africa. So peacekeeping, how to continue peacekeeping or increase security. Human rights is another issue. Environment, of course, climate change and global warming, all those issues are there. So, what is the disturbance? I don't know. Then we have key issues, surrounding economics. As I said, the debt. Now, many countries are indebted to China. So, Cambodia, Vietnam, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. So, many countries, even in Africa, they are indebted to China, World Bank, and other things, and they are controlling the policies. So, business, we are seeing a lot of businesses happening, and these businesses are being questioned for human right violation. So, basically, we are looking at issues which are beyond the national boundaries. So, how do we manage this? How do we control these issues? Is what is being talked about as part of global governance. So, there, I think cooperation is the best way is being talked about. But now, I think in the last 2-3 years, we are seeing initiatives where, like in the World Pandemic Treaty, even international health regulations, even under climate change negotiations, these commands which we spoke earlier, they are going beyond cooperation. So they're saying, no, you have to follow this. So this will this be able to work, or is that the only way we have to do? But literature says, experience says, nation state has to be intact, and cooperation is the best way. But how does the cooperation come, and which is being threatened by these conflicts between Russia and Ukraine? Of course, Russia and NATO, not just Ukraine. So all these issues are still sticking points in global. Next, please. I think I'll move faster. So I think let us just look at what are the governance indicators, good governance. What is that governance? So I think this is a survey which was done in the last between 96 and 2022 over 200 countries. So they have arrived at 6 indicators of good governance. I mean the factors which are good when we are talking of a good governance. So first one is voice and accountability. Voice is हर किसी का जो उसका क्या बोलते हैं आवाज, ये आवाज है या नहीं, और ये आवाज के मुताबिक अकाउंटेबिलिटी है या नहीं. I think that's what the first topmost thing. So it also means representation. It also means participation. So people's participation, I think that's a very crucial thing in governance. So whatever we are talking about a national level, state level, or global level, this becomes a critical factor whether the voice of the people is being heard or not. Then the accountability, of course, jawabdari system, basically जवाब देने का जो basically accountability has to be there. I don't know, Hindi word नहीं आ रहा, तेलुगु में जवाबदारी बोलते हैं. So political stability and absence of violence or terrorism. I think again this is a second factor. Government effectiveness. How effective is government? Regulatory quality. So regulation, is it democratic, open, transparent? All those issues are also part of the good governance. Then the rule of law. Whether this rule of law is equal, whether it applies to everyone, there is equity in that. So all these issues are, and then the control of corruption. So these 6 factors, please remember, these keep coming up, whether at a global level or हमारा municipal level पे भी वही आता है. So I am adding 2 things. One is, do we have a society at all today? हमारा समाज नहीं है आज. जैसा आप कहीं भी देख सकते हैं, अर्बन एरियाज में ज्यादा दिखेंगे. हम घर घर में बैठेंगे, लेकिन 100 लोग बैठेंगे, लेकिन हम 100 मिलके तो काम नहीं करते. देयर इज नो सोसाइटी नाउ. And then the leadership. And leadership, today across the world, you take any country, सब foolish leaders दिख रहे. There is no statesmanship or a gentle man kind of leadership is absent. So I think these two also are crucial for governance, is what I feel. Next, please. So अभी इसी background पे this UN Pact is being held as a landmark agreement for global cooperation. तो ये क्या है हम देखेंगे. Next, please. So this was signed, this is not actually adopted as a consensus. As Rushil said, only 7 countries have not agreed, but they could not stop also from this pact being adopted at the UN General Assembly. So just शायद आज 13 है, so 20 दिन पहले ये हुआ था. So this is aimed at revitalizing multilateralism. So this word multilateralism it comes from Cold War time, when we had 2 blocks between communist bloc and capitalist bloc. So that is where there is a sentiment emerged that we can't have blocks, we can't have countries. So we need a multilateralism where every country can deal or link up, have a relationship with other countries. So bilateralism and multilateralism. Bilateralism is between 2 countries. Multilateralism is between 2 and more countries. So this pact says revitalizing multilateralism. So it is agreeing that there is no multilateralism now, it has weakened. And that's what their initial introduction also says. This again is very crucial. When UN itself has recognized multilateralism as weakened, that means when you apply this recognition in the World Health Organization, when you apply this in the World Trade Organization, we'll understand it better. So this is a 42-page document. It is available on the net, and it includes 2 annex documents. So this is crucial. उसमें 2 उसके साथ ही साथ जो 42 pages में 2 annex documents. एक तो global digital impact, and then a declaration on future generations. So this pact is trying to say that they are going to regulate digital impact. तो ये मेरे को अभी भी समझ में नहीं आया why they have taken digital world needs to be regulated, and because there are many other issues as we have discussed, and they have been generalized, but these 2 this digital has been specifically mentioned. And declaration on future generations, we'll go into detail, but overall broadly they are talking of 56 broad actions that countries pledge to achieve. Even though they say action, so they said action 1, action 2, and they listed action 56, but in fact the wording does not give us any idea of what kind of action it is. Mostly it is like a principle, or it is like a broad objective. So the language is like that. and only some give you idea that there is some action coming out of it. Next, please. So these are the themes, under this 56 Act, peace and security. So they want to strengthen the UN's role in preventing conflicts, promoting peacekeeping, addressing disarmament, where arms बढ़ाना कम कर देंगे, non-proliferation, basically arms और हथियारा जो भी आजकल बहुत हो रहा है वो कम करेंगे. So arms, nuclear arms, bombs, will be a non-proliferation. Global governance, as I mentioned, so they want to, increase the effectiveness of UN system, including reforms to the Security Council and Economic and Social Council, because this is the one which is controlling the entire UN system. So Rushil was raising the question. India has, in fact, agreed and is part of this consensus on the Pact for Future, because we want to be part of the Security Council. So for long 10-15 years, India has been trying to enter the Security Council, which includes only the top 5 countries, France, China, US, Germany, UK. So these are, Russia is also there. So, but only these people control the Security Council and no other country is represented. So now they want to reform the Security Council and broaden the representation. Sustainable development, the climate action, sustainable energy, and all these are also part of the themes. Next, please. Digital cooperation and human rights. So you can see 5 themes are addressed in this. So human rights, of course, human rights, there is a lot of इसमें बढ़ावा है, जो पहले से भी यूएन में ह्यूमन राइट्स का टेक्स्ट जो है, it is there already, promoting gender equality, empowerment. So they only reiterate here the same what they want to do. But digital cooperation, I think that is what is going to be interesting for us. Actually, as part of AIM, we will be discussing that. Next, please. Okay, so I'm analyzing now the Pact itself. Actually, हम लोग देखना चाहिए. This is part of, this Pact is part of 250,000 international treaties जो अभी है. तो मैं पिछले बार भी इसका जिक्र कर रहा था. अभी there are 250,000 international treaties और उसमें 560 treaties are multilateral, as I said, which are under UN Secretary General. तो ये 561 मल्टीलैटरल ट्रीटी होगा या 562 मल्टीलैटरल ट्रीटी. सो इसमें ट्रीटी में of course US has a different mode. Each country they have their own defined method of how to sign a treaty. So Rushil was mentioning, which we discussed earlier also in the context of pandemic treaty and even international health regulations, how India enters into these treaties. So we have a constitutionally defined process, but ultimately only the cabinet is deciding whether we want to enter into a treaty or ratify a treaty. I think that we are trying to change as part of our AIM advocacy. So, but this significance is there are several international treaties, and this UN Pact for Future is another one. But interestingly, this UN Pact for Future does not refer to any analysis of how these other international treaties are working, what are the problems within those treaties, which, if at all, this Pact for Future is trying to address. So they don't address it at all. So, but many of these treaties, they are trying to eat into the power of the nation states. So हर कंट्री का जो सॉवरेंटी है उसके ऊपर ये एक इंटरनेशनल ट्रीटी बैठा हुआ है. सो जैसा WTO में हम देखे थे 1995 में बना हुआ है, उसमें जो डिसीजंस लेते हैं उसका इम्पैक्ट हम बनाना पड़ता है. दैट मीन्स वी हैव टू टेक दैट डायरेक्शन एंड वी डोंट हैव अ चॉइस. So many treaties are like that, and whether this Pact for Future is like that, I think that we have to explore. But the other thing is the power of the market and multinational corporation. So these people are also dictating policies in India or every country. So that's how we are seeing in the case of vaccines. Vaccines have been imposed on India by these multinational corporations and the power of the market. Similarly, other small countries like Bangladesh or even smaller island, Pacific islands, where India has given vaccines free, and that president of one island has touched the feet of Narendra Modi. So that's the power of the market, and these big countries influencing the smaller countries. So none of this is discussed in the Pact for the Future. Next, please. So I'm just referring to those two annexes. So Digital Compact has a 16.5 pages. Out of 42 pages, they have covered 16.5 pages. So you can imagine the importance given to digitization, everything digital in this UN Pact. So sometimes, when you read through, हमारे को डाउट लगता है कि असल ये UN Pact, is it for a digital, is it promoting digitization and artificial intelligence? Because the importance given is so much for that particular aspect. So, but इसमें what they are proposing is a multidisciplinary, independent, international scientific panel on artificial intelligence. So this is again, of course, it's a very innovative idea because as for climate change also, we have an international panel on climate change of scientists. So here they are also proposing an international scientific panel on artificial intelligence. और दूसरा they want to start a global dialogue on artificial intelligence governance, which is very, very minuscule today, but still they want to, the UN thinks this is a very big thing which requires its attention. I think that's again a significant way we need to look at it. But it's maybe after 16.5 pages, they don't have any proposal about the risks coming from artificial intelligence, including those related to trust, fairness, privacy, safety, accountability. So these are all the issues which have been raised as part of artificial intelligence. Then the digital divide, there are very few countries, and within those few countries, people have digital access, and many, almost 90% do not have any digital access. So this digital divide के बारे में कुछ जिक्र नहीं है इसमें. और data privacy and safety, हम लोग देख रहे हैं how our data is being used for marketing or increasing the business of multinational corporations. Safety, children's safety, women's safety. I think all those issues, because of this data, has not been dealt with in this digital compact. And climate impacts on digital economy. They want to promote digital economy, but digital economy also has impact on climate. जैसा data centers है, each data center requires millions of liters of water to cool it. So हम आज एक photo लेते हैं, that photo either through Telegram or WhatsApp or any of the apps, it goes into a data center, and that will be accessed by someone else. So these data centers are also causing climate impact. But उसके बारे में this is a huge impact. It's not just small because it requires power, it requires water, and of course, digital means require laptops. We have mobiles, which are all electronic equipment. उसको बनाने में ज़्यादा pollution भी होते रहता है. And then regulating digital technology companies at a global level. So they are not talking of regulating digital technology companies like Microsoft or Google हो कोई भी हो. Next please. So there is a declaration on future generations, as I mentioned. So आने वाले पीढ़ी के लिए एक डिक्लेरेशन बना हुआ है. वो 4.5 पन्ने का है ये, और उसमें 22 कमिटमेंट्स लिस्ट हुआ और 8 actions, very specific actions. But again, as I mentioned, these actions are formulated in more general way than specifically. So इसमें उनका एक proposal है, UN will appoint a special envoy on future generations. जैसा we have an envoy on human rights, we have an envoy on, so at the UN level, they appoint a special envoy on certain subjects. So they want to appoint a special envoy, and they are proposing a high-level plenary meeting of UN General Assembly to discuss this declaration, the progress of the actions which are proposed here, maybe next year or within next 2-3 years, there is going to be a plenary meeting. So इसमें क्या नहीं है? So I know that this document says we need to give importance to science, data, statistics के बारे में बहुत बार बात हुआ इसमें. But but now who is controlling science? It is business which is controlling science. Like we have seen in the case of corona treatment or vaccines, business says this is the science, but this is not the science. There is a science beyond the vaccines. So this kind of science is now dominating, but they are not referred to any of those things. So they are just saying science, data, statistics के बारे में बात हुआ है, लेकिन how to free that science, how to free that data, and how to free those statistics from business or profit, I think that's not discussed. Then the global commons है, हमारे को जैसा germplasm है, human germplasm, within that we have African lineage, Indian lineage. So there is a diversity of germplasm, not only among humans, we have among plants, among all other species. But this is a common, global common. How do we govern that? Today, Convention on Biodiversity, they are talking of sharing, access and benefit sharing, where companies can access those germplasm, genetic resources, and they can create a market out of it. और अभी हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि पैंडेमिक ट्रीटी में प्रपोजल है, जैसा अपना सेल डेटा और ह्यूमन का डेटा है ना, व्हेन कोरोना वाज देयर, they said they'll take the health diagnostic data and they'll do research and then come up with a solution. But that also means privatizing some of these global commons. Oceans को कैसा कंट्रोल करेंगे, एयर स्पेस, स्ट्रेटोस्फीयर, Arctic, Antarctica, all these global commons, how do we manage? Today they are being controlled by big countries like US, Russia, France, and UK. So I think we need that discussion, but that's not there. Then human health interlinked with the biodiversity. Hamara, whatever health is linked with the diverse food we have. So our immune system is built based on the food we have and the diversity which we have. इसके बारे में भी इसमें जिक्र नहीं है. Then the sustainability and climate action. how do we continue to use the resources sustainably so that global warming cannot happen. So ये इसके बारे में भी this declaration में कुछ भी नहीं है. Next please. So there are sticking points, as I mentioned, vaccines have been mentioned in this declaration. They mention because they have taken the entire text from the proposed pandemic treaty. So that's again surprising because on any other issue they have not taken anything specific, but they mention vaccines as one of the solutions for health. And information manipulation and misinformation. हम लोग देख चुके हैं कोरोना पैंडेमिक के टाइम पे they wanted only the information which is supplied by WHO or companies to be spread, and they removed all other information which is challenging that kind of information. So ये information manipulation or misinformation as they interpret misinformation, all these are part of the declaration. So they want to regulate that. And then importantly, they are inviting financial pledges to private sector and philanthropic actors. So as part of this Pact for Future, to implement this Pact for Future, they are inviting financiers from private sector and philanthropic actors, which means it could be Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, it could be Soros Foundation, it could be any of these big foundations which are controlling the content, which are controlling the action. All these are so again, which means whether this Pact for Pledge, is it trying to change or it is trying to continue the current hopeless situation is a doubt हमारे को आता है. Layered representation. अब representation as I mentioned earlier हम देखे थे गवर्नेंस में आवाज चाहिए और रिप्रेजेंटेशन चाहिए, बट हम लोग कैसा रिप्रेजेंट कर सकते हैं यूएन लेवल पे, एक आम आदमी यूएन लेवल पे कैसा रिप्रेजेंट होता है. थ्रू द नेशन स्टेट आर्गुमेंट डज नॉट हेल्प बिकॉज मोस्ट नेशन स्टेट्स are not democratic enough itself. So a layered representation, how do you ensure that voice of the people reaches the global level? So I think it is still a problem. Next, please. So these are the words, this whole of government, whole of society. So this means, earlier treaty साइन करते टाइम पे वो ट्रीटी का स्कोप लिखते हैं, बट दीज ट्रीटीज अभी जो पैंडेमिक ट्रीटी में भी वो यही बात हो रहा है, फिर ये यूएन पैक्ट में भी द वर्ड दे आर यूजिंग इज दिस विल अप्लाई टू एंटायर गवर्नमेंट. दे आर सेइंग इट विल अप्लाई टू एंटायर होल ऑफ सोसाइटी, which means the UN or the global governance will apply to the entire country. Earlier, like in a treaty, World Trade Organization में ट्रेड के बारे में बात करें तो ट्रेड का रिलेटेड रहता था, हेल्थ के बारे में तो हेल्थ के बारे में रहता था, बट नाउ दे आर टॉकिंग ऑफ कंप्लीट coverage scope. I think that how it impacts is still a question when it comes to democracy, accountability, and representation. And multilateral system, how to equip. When the UN itself, when it began this pact, they said multilateral system is weak. So they could not do anything in Gaza, they could not do anything in Russia, they could not do anything in Africa. So when they are saying equipping the multilateral system, what does it mean? I think it's still an open question. How do they want to equip when they have been failing? I think that's still an open question. Next, please. So अभी representation के बारे में थोड़ा ज़्यादा देखेंगे. जैसा as I mentioned, हम in India we have 3-tier governance. We have local government, so पंचायत हो, म्यूनसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन हो, फिर उसके बाद में स्टेट लेवल है, फिर उसके ऊपर नेशनल लेवल. So this is a layered representation, but in our constitution, a panchayat is equally on the same pedestal as a national government. So this is what we call a federal structure within India. बट अभी ग्लोबल ऐड हो रहा है उसके ऊपर. तो यह जो पंचायत में ये गांव में जो रहता है, ये गांव का आदमी को यूएन लेवल पे वॉइस कैसा मिलेगा, हाउ दे विल बी रिप्रेजेंटेड. आई थिंक दैट इज स्टिल ए क्वेश्चन एंड देयर इज नो मैकेनिज्म विच एक्सप्लेन्स हाउ इट हैपन्स. क्योंकि हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि एसिमेट्री जो आज जो है फाइनेंस है, हम यूएन में बात करना बोल तो पैसा लगता है. फाइनेंस वे कम्युनिकेशन, हाउ डू यू कम्युनिकेट, विथ whom we can communicate. देन नॉलेज एंड इंफॉर्मेशन, जो जैसा हम एक अभी वी आर डिस्कसिंग, वी डिस्कस्ड एक्चुअली एपिडेमिक बिल in the parliament. So we have this method of representation, consultation, but we don't. Many people are not able to participate because they don't have knowledge or information how to do that, even at national level. So global level पे कैसा होता? तो ये पूरा अभी open question. And in numbers, how many people can be there? I'll come to this in detail next please. जैसा अभी क्लाइमेट चेंज नेगोशिएशन में कॉप में हम देख सकते हैं, कॉप 1 1995 में शुरू हुआ, अभी कॉप 28 लास्ट में देख सकते हैं रेड कलर में. तो 28 मीटिंग्स हुआ है almost every year. So you can see the number of people participating increasing from below 20,000. You know, at COP 1, it could be शायद only 1,000 people participated. But by COP 28, almost 1 lakh people have participated. So the number is increasing. But ये कौन लोग है, कौन जा रहा है वहाँ पर, ये लोग are they representing the people? So we have different categories of people who are talking in the international negotiations. So this is where representation is asymmetrical because everyone can't participate. Next please. अभी वही COP 28 में बिजनेस वाले ज्यादा पार्टिसिपेट कर, एंड ऑल्सो कंट्री लेवल. जैसा इंडिया हैज सेंट 948 पीपल लास्ट टाइम, पिछले साल COP 28 is which happened last December. So 24,488 delegates were there. So a delegate का मतलब है they represent some countries. Each country will send a delegation. It could be some countries sent hundreds. जैसा आप देख सकते हैं, largest people, UAE, जैसा दुबई में हुआ है, they had 4,409 delegates. Brazil sent 3,081. China sent 1,411. Turkey sent 1,045. India, which is a big country, sent 948. And there are countries which have 0 delegates. जैसा अफगानिस्तान है, Myanmar है, they for the past 3 COPs they could not send even 1 delegate. So this is, you can see the asymmetry. Out of 194 countries, there could be 20-30 countries who can't even send 1 delegate, and they have only 4 or 5 countries who send thousands as part of the delegates. So ये democracy में, when you are talking of equality, equity, ये representation में बहुत फर्क लगता है इसमें. और दूसरी बात है, people who are participating other than the government, non-governmental organization देख सकते हैं 14,000 delegates. इसमें ज्यादातर बिजनेस वाले गए. So companies, oil companies, seed companies, pesticide companies, these people have become part of these delegates. So eventually, all international negotiations, the delegates who are participating, they are not representative. क्योंकि एक एक इसमें ज्यादा है, एक में जीरो है. So many companies, the big multinational companies, they send more than some of the countries. तो एक 300-400 लोगों को भी बेच चुके हैं वो लोग. So this business representation which is increasing, that's one, and then the country representation which is not equity. और दूसरी बात है, जैसा इंडियन डेलीगेशन हैज गॉन, we asked in India, who are these delegates? Not only in COP, we asked about a World Health Assembly. We were not given any information. And most of them are official. They are not even elected MLAs or MPs, कुछ भी नहीं है. So who are these officials? We had some discussion 10 years back. I was talking about Rotterdam Convention on chemical regulation. तो उसमें वो कन्वेंशन में हर बार अपना इंडियन गवर्नमेंट का डेलीगेट के बाजू में एक इंडस्ट्री रिप्रेजेंटेटिव बैठा हुआ रहता है. एंड दे डिस्कस अमंग देमसेल्व्स एंड टॉक व्हाट इंडिया एज अ कंट्री रिप्रेजेंट्स. बट एनजीओ फ्रॉम इंडिया इज नॉट कंसल्टेड एट ऑल. तो ये बिजनेस वाले रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं. तो मैं दिल्ली में गया था एक बार, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एनवायरनमेंट, एंड बिफोर द कन्वेंशन I wanted to represent the guy who was going to that conference. So he refused to, listen to me. He said, "You could be, you could be a plant of some multinational NGO." बोल के वो मेरे से बात करने को भी तैयार नहीं था. So this kind of representation, how do we democratize? How do we increase? I think that's a problem with all the international governance structures. WTO, WHO, many other conventions. Next, please. चेंज हो रहा है. So this is the final conclusion. So one is, as I mentioned, this is another pact. So there are several international treaties which are undemocratic, which don't have wide representation, and which are influenced by business, international business, and also even if there is an Indian or country delegation, they are also under the influence of business. The second is, this pact does not integrate with other treaties. So it does not even mention that, as I mentioned, there are 5 themes. There's a peace and conflict, on this human rights. So all these themes, there are other treaties already there, but they don't even mention, and they don't say how they want to integrate with those other treaties, and lacks roots in the countries. So ये जो pact निकला, it just came at an international level. There is no discussion which has happened in the countries. Like India, at the 74th General Assembly, Narendra Modi was there. He gave a speech, and India agreed on this. But there is nothing. People never knew what is happening there. They have not seen the text. There is no discussion at all within the countries. So this pact does not have any roots. That means it is coming from the top, and now they will try to develop the roots. See, a top-down approach. I think that's clear from this pact. And then, they, as I mentioned, 56 actions है, but they are all lofty goals. बड़े-बड़े बातें हैं उसमें, लेकिन कैसा करेंगे, क्या करेंगे उसमें, there is no mechanism of action which is innovatively mentioned. और उसमें ideas भी नहीं है कि जैसा करना, कैसा करना. Like in the health, they talk about, as I mentioned again, the same text which was there in the pandemic treaty. or in the international health regulations. So there is nothing, there is no new idea which has been mentioned in this pact. And then, of course, they endorse current undemocratic treaties like the, draft pandemic treaty or international health regulations. In fact, international health regulations is illegally being promoted by World Health Organization, but aaj tak UN has not made a comment on that. But also, then who is going to regulate the illegal behavior of international organizations? I think that is again a question which this UN Pact for Future does not address. So overall, I think this Pact for Future seems to be about digitization and promotion of digital technologies, and also a kind of international mechanism which perpetuates the current hopeless, method of governance. So I think that's what is all about it. Next, please. तो हम लोग इसमें हम ये क्यों ज्यादा देख रहे हैं बोल तो UN Pact for Future is going to bring digital, and digital is going to govern some of the future pandemic management. जैसा हम digital health records देख रहे हैं, so this digitization is going to pervade most of our lives, and digital passports का बात कर रहे हैं. So I think we need to engage with this process, because this digital compact, which is being promoted by the UN, is unrepresentative, undemocratic, and it is not based on the good governance principles. So I'm stopping here. I think we can have any questions. Thank you, and sorry for the delay.
No, thank you so much, Narasimha ji. That was so detailed and I think very clear and explicit. Yeah, we can take some questions. अगर आपके कोई questions है तो आप unmute कर सकते हैं अपने आप को. Perhaps Deepika, we can stop the screen share also now. We may not require it. So Narasimha ji, I have one or two questions of my own. थोड़ा clarity इस wording के ऊपर मुझे चाहिए थी. When they call it a pact, is a pact something which is legally binding on a country, or are there any clauses within this pact which make anything that is said in the pact binding on India? That is my first question.
Okay, go ahead.
Second question is related, but did we क्या हम लोग ने signatures किए हमारे representatives ने जाके, या by show of hands or some kind of voting mechanism in the General Assembly, by consent basis पे इसे sign किया गया? This is my second question. Maybe you can answer these, Narasimha ji.
Yeah, I'll come from second to the first.
Yeah.
Basically, they said this is a consensus document. So I think within the UN General Assembly, it was there was no voting, but there was no dissent either, which was taken as a consensus completely. Okay. The second related thing is they are saying it as a pact. So most probably they don't want this to be as part of this 250,000 treaties which I am talking about. So ये जो treaties है उसमें 56,000 treaties are part of the UN. So ये पूरा they are governed by Vienna Convention on Treaties. So Vienna Convention is again a broad framework which says how a treaty can be governed, how a treaty can be, the mechanism of fair play. ये पूरा उसमें है Vienna Convention.
Right. So this would also fall under Vienna Convention.
Yeah, but I think when they worded it not as a treaty but as a pact, I think they are trying to bring it out of that legally accepted framework. Why? I don't know. Maybe the UN Secretary General thought, UN Security Council whether it accept it or not, शायद वो होगा, I don't know, or maybe because of the politics within the UN General Assembly. But if if you look at it, the same UN General Assembly where they have signed this consented to this pact, there Israel Prime Minister came and most of the delegates walked out. So the first theme was about peace and security, and it was emphasizing how we bring peace at international level. But then, if you look at, and in fact, Israel has rejected UN, and they banned the UN Secretary General from entering Israel.
Yes.
So it became that UN became a party rather than a unifying force or a force which tries to bring together two conflicting parties. तो शायद इस context में they are calling it a pact rather than treaty, because once they call it a treaty, maybe everyone would not have signed. So maybe
Right.
that's
So इसमें जो सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल के पास वीटो पावर होता है, क्या रशिया उसे एक्सरसाइज करके इसको रिजेक्ट नहीं कर पाई और उसी कारण से शायद इसे पैक्ट कहा गया, ट्रीटी को शायद वो वीटो कर सके कि
yeah, because no, Security Council is not the finalization authority. Security Council is only for security, not about everything UN. So
Okay.
UN General Assembly is the body where these things happen. But as I mentioned, maybe to avoid all these questions coming up, they avoided the word of treaty, and
Right.
of course saving it from people, countries like Russia or others rejecting it.
Right. ठीक है, maybe we can take some questions from the audience. अगर आप किसी के कोई भी सवाल हो इस टॉपिक के ऊपर तो प्लीज आप अनम्यूट कर सकते हैं, नरसिम्हा जी को हम कोई सवाल कर सकते हैं. 10-15 मिनट हम शायद और ले सकते हैं, तो 2-3 क्वेश्चन शायद उसमें हम आंसर कर पाएंगे. किसी के कोई क्वेश्चंस है तो आप प्लीज अपने आप को अनम्यूट कीजिए और आप क्वेश्चन पूछिए. Well, I guess if there are not too many questions, Narasimha ji, any final thoughts? अगर as AIM members हम ये चीज़ों को देख रहे होते हुए, ये सारी ट्रीटीज है या पैक्स है और पैंडेमिक अग्रीमेंट है, तो हम क्या इसके ऊपर कर सकते हैं, हमें क्या चीज़ों पे मेहनत करनी चाहिए एज AIM members, उसके ऊपर अगर थोड़ा आप एडवाइस दे सकते हैं तो.
Yeah, I think one thing is I can understand because not many people are on the top of what is happening at international level, and it is very confusing. Sometimes it is very detailed. Until we go continuously monitor, we will not be able to understand what is happening. जैसा क्लाइमेट चेंज में मैं भी पिछले 3 साल से एवरी डे आई एम रिव्यूइंग क्लाइमेट चेंज नेगोशिएशन. So each of these treaties or whatever negotiations are happening, just I'll give you an example. Global Plastic Treaty. अभी plastics, because plastics are everywhere, they are causing problems to human beings and all kinds of species. Now there is a plastic treaty under negotiation. तो एक एक ट्रीटी में जैसा ग्लोबल केमिकल्स फ्रेमवर्क एक बन रहा है, फिर ग्लोबल बायोडाइवर्सिटी में 1992 में एक कन्वेंशन हुआ, विच इज एग्रीमेंट, एंड दे आर नेगोशिएटिंग सम ऑफ द प्रोसेसेस. अभी पिछले 21 नेक्स्ट 21 अक्टूबर टू नवंबर में कोलंबिया में उसका मीटिंग होने वाला है. So all these have implications on health and how health is globally being pushed. Sorry? Okay. तो ये हेल्थ के रिलेटेड में ये पूरा कहीं ना कहीं उसका जुड़ा हुआ है। तो इसमें हु इज डिसाइडिंग हाउ, आई थिंक दैट वी हैव टू कंटिन्यूअसली मॉनिटर एंड वी नीड टू क्वेश्चन, बिकॉज हम लोग देख चुके हैं जैसा पैंडेमिक, ग्लोबल पैंडेमिक डिक्लेरेशन कैसा हुआ, फिर उसको कैसा हमारा ऊपर दबाव डाला गया कि इंस्टेड ऑफ कंट्री लेवल specific response, we were imposed, a global response was imposed on all the countries. So I feel decisions about ourselves has to be, we have to be part of that. So हम लोग ये बोलते हैं कि nothing about us without us. तो हमारे बिना हमारा बारे में डिसीजन नहीं होना चाहिए. दैट्स प्रिंसिपल which we need to use when we are trying to understand what is happening at national level and also international level. तो आज जो हो रहा है, this politics, this is more about wealth and power, and that is obvious, coming between China and US. तो ये पूरा चल रहा है, and that is reflecting in these international treaties. But ultimately, इस मसला में, and this in this conundrum, the biggest benefactors are multinational corporations. So it could be digital company, it could be a pesticide company, it could be a vaccine company, it could be a pharma company. तो ये लोग बढ़ते जा रहे हैं. I think that we need to focus upon and see how these can be regulated, and basically how these companies cannot be given the power to decide over our lives. I think that हम हर बार देखना चाहिए.
जी थैंक यू सो मच नरसिम्हा जी. किसी का कोई क्वेश्चन है? रामजीत सिंह, आपका कोई सवाल था?
हाँ, क्या आप ये पेंडेमिक ट्रीटी का जो पार्ट 2 है जो अप्रैल में साइन हो जाएगा या इंडिया अपोज कर रहा है?
पैंडेमिक ट्रीटी पार्ट 2 नहीं है, उसमें दो अलग है. एक तो इंटरनेशनल हेल्थ रेगुलेशंस है. इंटरनेशनल हेल्थ रेगुलेशंस जो WHO कौन सा काम कहाँ तक कर सकता है बोल के बनाया गया. लेकिन वो लोग पिछले जनरल असेंबली में, उनका वर्ल्ड हेल्थ असेंबली में, दे अमेंडेड इट विदाउट फॉलोइंग द लीगल प्रोसेसेस. उसमें कैसा है, अगर इंटरनेशनल हेल्थ रेगुलेशन अमेंडमेंट करना है तो वो अमेंडमेंट का नोटिस 4 महीने पहले देना. यानी उनका हर साल मई में मीटिंग होता है, तो जनवरी में वो नोटिफिकेशन देना था, वो लोग नहीं दिए. सिर्फ 2 दिन पहले नोटिफिकेशन देके they said they are passed. The people asked how was it passed, was there a voting, क्या हुआ. लेकिन अभी तक उसके बारे में वर्ल्ड हेल्थ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन अभी ऑफिशियली कुछ बताया नहीं. सो दैट इज ए इलीगली अमेंडेड इंटरनेशनल हेल्थ रेगुलेशन. अब दूसरी बात है वर्ल्ड पैंडेमिक ट्रीटी, वो अभी स्टिल नेगोशिएशन में है, और उसका जो ड्राफ्ट है उसके ऊपर अभी भी चल रहा है, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट चल रहा है. The last draft was in, I think, March or May. Abhi, they are saying by December there is going to be a final draft. So draft आया तो शायद January 2025 में they might give a notice and then take it into World Health Assembly in May 2025 and get it done. So if that approval happens, then the countries can ratify that. अभी इंटरनेशनल हेल्थ रेगुलेशन का ratification नहीं हुआ. They have put it for ratification. So there is still time, I think, until December. 12 months है. So I think next year तक उसका टाइम है. तो ये पार्ट 2 पार्ट 1 नहीं है. दिस इज डिफरेंट. इंटरनेशनल हेल्थ रेगुलेशन अलग है, वर्ल्ड पैंडेमिक ट्रीटी अलग है. अभी ट्रीटी नहीं बना, उसका फाइनल ड्राफ्ट भी अभी नहीं आया, शायद वो आएगा. लेकिन इंडिया उसमें जो भी अभी तक जो प्रपोजल्स आए, I think we are almost endorsing most of these proposals which are coming as part of that.
थैंक यू नरसिम्हा जी. किसी और के कोई अगर कोई सवाल है तो मे बी एक लास्ट 1-2 क्वेश्चंस पूछ सकते हैं.
हेलो.
यस महेश, आप प्लीज पूछ सकते हैं अपना क्वेश्चन.
या गुड आफ्टरनून डॉक्टर रेड्डी.
Good afternoon.
Sir, like you said, some corporates are representing industries rather than a commerce body or any particular ministry. Same way, I feel that some of the schools are also claiming that they are members at the UN rather than a consortium of schools or representation from the education ministry. So I want to know that is it a red flag in the same way which you said? Because I see that these schools, they claim that they are attending meetings at the UN, and they keep celebrating United Nations World Tourism Day, this day or that day. And I mean, they are like marketing agents of the United Nations. And to a level that they have started even teaching sustainable development goals to students as small as 6 years, 7 years. I mean, standard 1.
They actually in the UN system or also any international, basically UN system, there are state actors. So that means all the countries are members of the UN, whoever, they are part of that. Then they say non-state actors. So non-state actors may all these civil society organizations, that's a very broad word used. Usme there could be associations, there could be NGOs, like a society which was established for some charity work or some development work. They can become members of the UN membership. So these are all non-state actors. So in fact, UNICEF or UNESCO, even they are considered as a big NGOs. So even though they are part of the UN system, they work as a UN, basically NGOs. So today, as you rightly said, some of these globalization trends that are being pushed through this non-state actors. So it could be anyone who is a member, there is a process where you can get registered at the UN level. So even if it is, if AIM is a registered body, they can also become a member of the UN body. So what is the benefit they get out of it is, one is, they give that big, it gives them the image, marketing image that they are part of a big international system. But the other part is, they can participate in these conferences. So it could be climate change conference, it could be, but of course, all conferences, everyone is not allowed. Like, in World Health Assembly, only delegates are allowed. But even in the UN General Assembly, only delegates, country delegates are allowed. So it depends on the conference and kind of structure around that conference where these non-state actors can participate. So non-state actors, as I mentioned, there is again, there are a lot of politics within it. One is, they use this to further their business or whatever, to wherever they are working. The other is, they, in fact, they say as if they are representing this particular section. So like, in this particular school participate in the conference, they try to say they are as if they are representatives of a school system within India, or someone, like a association or a business commerce organization. They don't say specifically, but they, when they are in the UN conference, they are taken as representing that particular section. So that, I think, is quite confusing, and also there is a lot of misrepresentation there. That's what I was trying to mention. there is no discussion or dialogue on how representation can be basic and democratic, and how there has to be a symmetry. Like in India, we have parliament. Parliament mein we have 545 members in the Lok Sabha. So we have an electoral college, so people can get elected, and we have certain reservations for some downtrodden people. So there is a system where we try to make that representation as broad as possible. But then these non-state actors within UN, they are trying to use that and misrepresent the people. I think that's a concern. That's where I mentioned this pact does not talk about it. And when we are talking of global governance, this becomes the first top, indicator is voice and representation. और किसका आवाज जा रहा है उसमें और किसका रिप्रेजेंटेशन जा रहा है, ये हम पहले से पूछना पड़ता. And unless we ask that, it does not get articulated.
And sir, can they implement any policies which is outside the radar of our education system? I mean, the ministry and all. I mean, like these vaccination things and all, and get away with it without we being able to catch them in a legal way.
No, within then we come to our Indian education system. So we have several education models. There's a ICSE, CBSE, and a state level education systems है. इसमें syllabus जो है, जो teach करना है, वो तो there is a formal approval process as well. But there is scope for teaching or educating children on many other things. जैसा sports के बारे में बात करते हैं. So there is scope for that. These are not policies. These are basically about educating the children about the subject itself. So subject में positive हो, negative हो, कुछ भी हो सकता है. But basically we are trying to educate. So and if they are doing a particular line of education, is it broadly represented? Like जैसा अभी चर्चा में हो रहा है कि history, who is representing history? So BJP has been saying Indian history has been distorted and only conquerors get the lot more attention in our textbooks than the other people. So ये चर्चा तो चल रहा है सिलेबस में, क्या किसके बारे में कौन टीचिंग करना. But what I am saying is in education, it has to be as broad as possible so that students widen their area of understanding. So that has to be there. आप policies बात कर रहे हैं तो that वो अलग है. We have, I think AIM has been fighting vaccination because that's a specific action in schools. ये vaccine, how can you make it part of a curriculum or make it part of a school system? So this is imposition. But educating about vaccines and educating about therapeutics, educating about treatment systems, I think that has to be as wider as possible. So if you are talking of sustainable development goals, they are not policies, they are goals. So education can continue on that. But if they are saying this is the solution and only this is the solution, then I think there the issue comes up.
Thank you, sir.
Very, very true, Narasimha, what you just said. The Sustainable Development Goals, they are quite noble goals. The contention really is about कि वो goals को achieve कैसे करना है, कौन से route से करना है. So I think ये हर एक I think it's an important point we should also keep in mind कि जब हम food की बात करते हैं, food security की बात करते हैं, and feeding 8 billion people, तो खाली GM food से हो ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है. जो UN का basically action है वो गोल को अचीव करने के लिए. We should keep this in discussion. But anyhow, maybe we've overshot our time also. अगर कोई और questions है तो last question शायद दे सकते हैं. नहीं तो हम आज का session end भी कर सकते हैं. Any final thoughts, Narasimha ji, from your side?
Nothing. I think I already given the final thought. But only thing is, let us engage with this process. और शायद एक सेशन से maybe people are not going to be ingrained.
Maybe Narasimha ji, maybe you can share एक दो resources जो आप follow करते हैं ये news को जानने के लिए. अगर और भी लोग इसे कर सके, of course Awaken India Movement का broadcast channel तो सभी लोगों को follow करना चाहिए. लेकिन इसके अलावा और कोई resources है जो लोग इसको follow कर सकते हैं?
Yeah, I'll share it in the group.
Sure, ये discussion group में आप share कर सकते हैं और हम फिर broadcast भी करेंगे. तो बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका नरसिम्हा जी. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर स्पेंडिंग दिस टाइम. बहुत ही डिटेल्ड प्रेजेंटेशन भी बनाया. मे बी वो प्रेजेंटेशन की कॉपी भी आप हमारे साथ शेयर कर सकते हैं. एक्चुअली हाँ, आपने तो शेयर कर ली है, तो मैं बाकी लोगों के साथ भी वो कॉपी शेयर कर दूंगा. थैंक यू सो मच एंड हम फिर मिलेंगे अगले संडे और एक कोई काम की बात लेके. थैंक यू.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you so much.